Welcome all to the Tortillas and Takes podcast. You are on once again with your boy, Albie Shore, and this is the preview pod of all preview pods. Why? Because the 8th ranked Texas Tech Red Raiders, that's right, you heard me, the 8th ranked, shout out to the College Football Playoff Committee, is taking on the 7th ranked BYU Cougars. All right. And big game called the Game of the Decade, Game of the Century Part 2 for Texas Tech. Biggest game in Jones AT&T Stadium since the Crabtree catch. Absolute pandemonium in Lubbock this weekend. Everybody who's anybody is in Lubbock this weekend. And we say it's the biggest game since the Crabtree catch. Some people are saying it's the biggest game in program history. The buildup has been insane. And so to talk about all of it, including the game itself, we got not just myself, but also the people's champ, Jeremy Gillen. What's up, Jeremy?
It's the best week of the year, Albert. Or college football playoffs rankings means the AP poll never doesn't matter anymore. They can keep voting if they want to, but I'm not watching it. But yeah, huge game. And nothing to be said for the buzz that is about campus. I've never seen so much activity around campus, with College Gameday, of course, returning for the first time since 2008. They got set up early outside the west side of the stadium, overlooking kind of that tall part of the stadium. Looks good. And bunch of students, tent city. I mean, Texas fans, take your licks here. It looks like we're trying to recreate Austin, all the homeless just spread about, all the tents everywhere. But it's a really cool thing to see. I think, I left work today. The number was at like 2,200 basically. It's a really cool thing to see. Just the buzz about campus, the excitement behind this team, the palpable energy in Lubbock, like everybody's talking about this. And so a great one. I mean, a great game ahead. We all eyes on Lubbock, Texas. I can't say Texas Tech because everyone's equally as interested in an undefeated BYU team. How real are you? And this is the Clash of the Titans. This is like the game of the season for the conference.
Is everybody interested in BYU? So here's the thing. Here's the thing.
That's awful.
Everybody respects BYU. I'm not trying to dog BYU here. Obviously, everyone respects them.
Do they though? I don't think so.
You don't think people respect them?
No.
So
all the research I did in the past couple of days, I don't think many people are respecting BYU.
I'll say this, and we talked about it in the chat earlier today. This is the first big-time game that Texas Tech has probably ever been in where the main story is Texas Tech, right?
Yeah.
Whenever Mahomes and Mate was playing Baker, the story was Baker coming back to Tech. Whenever the Crabtree catch, the story was Texas as the number one team in the nation. Can they withstand probably their toughest test of the regular season on their way to a national championship run? Because the thing about that 2008 season that's always lost is that 2008 was probably the first time in 40 years that Texas was the perceived best team in the country. Because even the year they won with Vince Young, they were not perceived as the best team in the country. USC was, and they were just number 2 the whole year until the championship game. But in 2008, Texas was perceived from week 2 the best team in the country. And every week they kept winning and they were the best team in the country. So that Texas game was and then they won the Red River Rivalry. So the Texas Tech game was like if Texas can just survive Lubbock, they will go to the national championship game. They'll go to the Big 12 championship game, they'll go to the national championship game. And so that was the story, right? Can Texas survive the 7th ranked team in the nation? Can they survive the rowdiness that is Lubbock? Can survive all that? Right. And of course they couldn't. But every other game that we've had, right? Even there was a big matchup whenever we played in College Station, a huge game. Wes Welker, that return. A&M was a top ranked team. It wasn't about Tech being great. It was A&M. How great is A&M? Right. The only game I can think of where Tech was the focus was 2 weeks after the Crabtree catch. Lubbock Tech went to Oklahoma. It's a game we almost never want to talk about. And the focus was, can Texas Tech do it again? However, even that one was still, can Texas Tech do it again, and can Oklahoma win this game to have themselves go to the national championship, right? Because Oklahoma's only loss at the time was in the Red River Rivalry game. Beating Tech put them back in there, all that other stuff. So this is the first game that I can think of where Tech is the main character, right? And BYU is the Clubber Lang. Well, we're Rocky. We're the main character. We're who you're following. The reason, right? Snapback Sports is who Jeremy's just not figuring out who they are.
I'm so disconnected.
I did that. Well, no, I did that deep dive 2 weeks ago, so you're good. You're not too far behind. Like they're in town. Game Day's in town. Josh Pate, he's in town. Everybody's in town this weekend in Lubbock, and the story is Lubbock because for the first time since 2008, Lubbock, Texas, is on the headlines. The ability to come down to Lubbock, the ability to see the rowdiness that is Tech, all that. Even Beard's return to Tech a couple of years ago. It was insane. It was crazy. People made their way down, but it was all about Beard's return, Texas Longhorns return. This is, man, Texas Tech has the hell of a squad, and they can paint it about the money or Jacob Rodriguez or Baron Morton or whoever, but it's Texas Tech, and BYU is a bit of the backstory, and I don't know how I feel about that.
It's uncomfortable, and I mean, we talked about it it was Joe gave the Rocky Clubber Lang that we're kind of referencing here that, in that movie, if you don't remember, Rocky was taking on all of the all of the media high, right? It was all about Rocky. And then Clubber Lang's the one, training in the shadows, getting ready. And we all remember how that kind of went out. But it is uncomfortable.
And it made, that was such a great analogy from Joe. Shout out to Joe. Because, when we talked about it this morning.
Dog.
I'm seeing so much media.
Yeah.
And it's feel-good stuff. It's warm stuff. It's fans, Raiderville high-fiving players as they go to practice. Stone Harrington's out there, helping students get ready for the Pat McAfee kickoff or kick. He's holding the ball in the tee for everybody. It's the interviews that some of the players are taking. It's the media attention. It's all of it, and it's cool. It's really cool stuff. But it's also to none of these guys have been there before. None of them have been in this situation before. Cole Wisniewski was in an FCF's natty, but that's not this level, right? AJ McCarty, when he was at Baylor, didn't go. Well, there was not a game that was a top 10 matchup that he was starting in that he could talk about. Like, none of these players are here, so it does make me nervous. I'm not a huge fan of the media attention we're getting. Yeah,
and it's only going to get worse. Come Saturday. Come College Game Day, they're going to have stuff lined up. The reason they get here so early is they can start collecting those stories, the feel good things and stuff like that. And it's just come along there's things that are happening. So obviously I'm going to put money down. They're going to talk about Jacob Rodriguez, which for me, I'm like, you need to be we need more exposure. This week has been thankfully a week of more sports media personalities coming on to the Jacob Rodriguez hype. Oh, wow, this guy has how many, turnovers? So the awakening of the Jacob Rodriguez awakening is that's the best part about this whole thing. But other things have happened that are out of our control that are feel good stories. So Texas Tech's barber, name is escaping me now that I'm not looking at it. His wife,
Yvonne Lopez. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. So his wife gets in an accident, drunk driver, and he starts a GoFundMe, which that's its own thing. Why can't we have more affordable medicine? But starts a GoFundMe to kind of to cover those costs, and BYU fans pick it up, and BYU fans, annoyingly, being so kind, start donating. Kirk Herbstreit donates $5,000. That picks up steam. We've got the guy who tweeted out how, oh my God, my wife picked our wedding on the same weekend as BYU, right? They're getting married on Friday in Dallas, though. And it's like, we want to be there for game day. And now you've got everybody on game day talking about it. And so it was like the momentum we are unable to stop the momentum of communication. And for Texas Tech fans, we have always thrived when the focus was elsewhere, when we were the dogs, and it's across sports. It's like, if you're not talking about us, that's when we thrive, because it's like then you have the chip, then we got the edge. Now you have the better team on paper, and everybody's saying that. And why all of a sudden are we like becoming reclusive? That's what's interesting to me. It's like, no. If you look at the numbers, if you look anywhere on the internet, all of the odds makers, everyone is saying Texas Tech, you've got the metrics, go execute, and you got this game. Some people are saying, I mean, some places out there are suggesting that this will be a blowout because BYU has been tested by poor teams and come up very marginally ahead. And Texas Tech has blown out its opponents, right? So there is very few, and that's what I meant when I said earlier, like BYU opens up as a 10.5 dog and on the road for sure, but you're undefeated and you're opening up as a 10.5 dog against Texas Tech. That's for BYU, like you're giving them all the poster stuff, like all of the stuff that they need to come out and do that thing, right? That's the uncomfortable part for me. But the reality is Texas Tech does have that team that should be compensated, like through what is happening, through the exposure, through like diving in, like, hey, what does make this team special? Yeah, they lost to Arizona State, but the college football playoff guys said that didn't matter. They recognized that Morton wasn't in it, and they still, I mean, we still rallied back with like a minute left, got a touchdown, right? It's like Texas, there's something special about this Texas Tech team. What is it? Right. So that's the question that's led all of the media stuff this week.
But I think Ivan Ortiz is the barber's name, so apologies for that. But Ivan Ortiz. But yeah, no, I do want to give shout out to, it's supposed to be BYU Hate Week. Can't hate these fans. They're
so annoying. It's
so
annoying. They've been so great, man. They're so funny too. They are so funny.
Such the opposite of Utah. I mean, it is just like it's very different.
And guess who's trying to squeeze their way into BYU Texas Tech's week? Utah fans. For no reason.
But to be fair, in the Utah Texas Tech week, BYU fans also squeezed in our support, but squeezed their way into that week too. So I will say you're absolutely right about Kalani Sitake. He doesn't even have to do the whole nobody believes in us thing, because nobody does, right? Like I was recently on a podcast, College Football Forecast. Make sure to check it out if you get a chance to. And it was a roundtable of us talking about games for this weekend, and I actually had to be the one to talk about the goodness of BYU. Everybody else, mind you, these aren't Tech fans. One's an Ohio State fan, one's a Tennessee or an Ohio State reporter, one's a Tennessee fan, one's a Oklahoma reporter, right? They're not even Big 12 fans. They're just like, oh yeah, Texas Tech should win this game handily. And I'm like, oh, okay, guys, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Take it slow your roll. I'm picking Tech too, but relax, guys, relax. And you know, we'll see at the end of the episode if I actually do pick Tech. I got to save face in front of company. But yeah, no, you're right that so nobody's really giving BYU a lot of credit. Kalani Sitake is going to have plenty to get his guys hyped up about in this game. The only person that's even getting any type of love is Bear Bachmeier. Everybody wants to know his weird, strange, inbred story, because his parents pumped him up in steroids when he was like 2 months old or whatever the story is. But yeah, it's but that's about it. I mean, in game, you mentioned the Gameday having a story about Rodriguez. I believe they have a story lined up for Bear Bachmeier as well, and that's about it. Nobody's talking about anything else for BYU. So if they're not talking about the fact that they're getting their starting running back Martin is back for this game, and nobody knows. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares. Yeah. And it's very worrisome for me. I do think there are two positives from this. So positive one, Joe McGuire talked about it. They asked him about the attention everybody's getting. And I liked his answer. His answer was that, well, all these guys have dreams of being in the NFL. And a lot of these guys are going to be in the NFL. a.k.a. Jacob Rodriguez, Romello Height, David Bailey, maybe Baron Morton in some backup capacity, Jacoby Williams, right? Caleb Douglas, like a lot of these guys, Terrence Carter, a lot of these guys are going to play on Sundays. And all of them have the dream of playing on Sundays. And so because of that dream and because of that desire, this fanfare can't get to their heads because this is supposed to be your career, right? So he mentioned that. He mentioned the fact that not only that, but his message to the team has been all this fanfare you have earned. You've earned this fanfare. You've earned the game day. You've earned all of this, but you have not earned the win on Saturday. There's still that next level. You have not earned the ability to win on Saturday. And he believes because of the veteran presence that we have, we don't have a lot of youngins that are getting play time with this team. We have a lot of vets. We have even Gil Howard being injured is still being a leader on the sideline. You have a vet like Romello Height, like Baron Morton, like Caleb Douglas, Reggie Virgil, Howard Sampson, Davian Carter, Lee Hunter. You have all these vets, right? And so that's one thing he's relying on. Right? So that's one thing that makes me feel okay. The second one being, no matter what happens in this game, the fanfare, this will be the first time we've had a fanfare up to this level. After this, they'll be used to it. Whether we're in the Big 12 championship game, whether it's the first round of the CFP, whether it's next year in the CFP, whatever it is, this level of fan, and I can get much bigger than this.
Yeah.
Right? So this level of fanfare, no matter what happens on Saturday, they'll be ready for it going forward.
Yep, it's true. It's true.
So, Jeremy, how about we talk about the game?
Talk
about the game itself. And as we usually do when we talk about the game itself, we talk about the quarterback position from the other side. Back in July or June, whenever this thing happened, it was supposed to be Jake Retzlaff, right? The Jake Retzlaff. Now, Jake Retzlaff last year ended the season as one of the hottest, if not the hottest, quarterback in the entire Big 12, right? He was killing it. He looked like a guy that was even looking at potentially playing on Sundays himself as a starting quarterback. Like that's how good he was playing at the end of last year. And you were like, man, got to watch out for Retzlaff. He's really killing it. And then what happened, Jeremy? Cat dog.
He gone and had it.
Gone and had it. He's like, how dare you go and have premarital sex? Who you think you are, son? So Jake Retzlaff all of a sudden goes from being a quarterback that's supposed to be going into his second season as a BYU starter with everything behind him, with a really good BYU team behind him, to, you're kicked out of the school because you had premarital sex. Now Retzlaff, who at one point looked like he was going to get benched. I actually don't know if the benching ever happened or not, but he's actually having a pretty decent season for Tulane. He's at Tulane now, and the Green Wave is having a pretty good season this year. They better just hope they keep their head coach, but Retzlaff's playing fine. But the big question coming into the season was, well, if they don't have Retzlaff, and he was basically punted from the program pretty late in the cycle. Now the backup, Bear Bachmeier, who was a true freshman, 18 years old, just got on the campus, all the other stuff. He ain't gonna be able to handle this. Jeremy, we were talking about in the preview part, the season preview, that I mentioned how much I would have trusted BYU if this player wasn't their starting quarterback. But Bear Bachmeier's done the thing. He's done the thing that we said he had to do, which is just don't make the mistake. So what are your thoughts on the weird quarterback that is named Bear that wears number 47?
First of all, how dare you? 47. That's crazy.
How
dare you?
Insane.
That's an offense to the game. Outside of that, I don't think for BYU you could ask for a better next man up scenario than for your quarterback to go from Retzlaff to a true freshman. And you're like, oh my God, like I know BYU fans were sweating, in the first couple of games. Portland State, no big deal. But going forward, how does this freshman start to compete against better talent? And while there has been some hang up, like Bachmeier on an undefeated BYU team, you're going to look at the quarterback. Bear Bachmeier is the guy, right? He's making it happen. He's not making it happen for BYU through every quarter. And this is something that BYU fans have definitely pointed out just everywhere I've been looking, that BYU, and this is very similar language that Joey McGuire was sharing earlier in the season, that BYU has a much higher ceiling than where they're at, but inconsistent play, like the inability to string that level of play across multiple quarters, has hindered them. And a lot of that does start with Bear Bachmeier. Now, what makes this kid special is that even though they suffer early, typically they give up a lot of points in the first quarter. Typically in the second, with defensive adjustments, with kind of a resurge momentum for BYU, Bear Bachmeier has locked in. Like the Bear has locked in. And he's played his best football usually in the third and fourth quarters, especially in the fourth quarters. Like there is a mystique that is building up around this kid, that in the fourth quarter, if BYU's trailing by like a touchdown, maybe even 10 points or whatever, they're going to win. Like Bear gets him back in it. Like Bear's the guy who wins it for him. And you can't say anything else because he's done it, right? They haven't lost yet. They've trailed in a couple games this season. They've had teams come back in the fourth quarter, and they've met that pace, right? Bachmeier has been everything that BYU has needed him to be. Respecting that he's still a freshman, but he has made very minimal mistakes, only 3 interceptions on the season. He is a very confident passer. He's a very confident runner. They include him on a lot of run scheme. And so he's done it all for him. Now, is he a mobile quarterback? I'm not really going out to say that just yet. I think that it's more schemed for him and with good blocking. Like BYU is great blocking. So Bear, great quarterback, a very under-respected quarterback at this point in the season, because again, BYU opening up 10.5-point dogs on the road. They're saying, okay, Bear, you're good, but this Texas Tech defense is so much better. But I don't know, man. Like Bear Bachmeier has found a way to win close games all season long. Does he have the gas in the tank is my question. And the composure, because this would be their biggest game on the road. Again, we're getting all of like the lights and stuff, but in that same breath, BYU is stepping into the arena with the same lights, with the same cameras, with the same on-call, Kirk Herbstreit, Fowler, like everything's the same for BYU. They're just the disrespected ones. And that could still be pressure. That could still be a lot of pressure. Hey, man, you throw an interception early, Bear. Are you able to come back from that? Are you able to bounce back if, Jacob Rodriguez, punches the ball out? Are you able to come back after David Bailey sacks you 3 times? Are you able to come back? How do you fare in the fourth quarter when the defense is not getting tired? These are just big questions that he hasn't really been have to address thus far in the season. But otherwise, dude's a dog. Like, wildly disrespected quarterback in the Big 12.
So I'll say this. So the last two, one of the things that has worried me about BYU and Bear Bachmeier and BYU in general is, so their last 2 games have been the 2 toughest games they've had all year, right? If you'd have told me that BYU would be undefeated before the Utah game, it wouldn't have shocked me. It wouldn't have surprised me, right? Their games up to that point, they played Portland State, Stanford, East Carolina, won on the road to a bad Colorado team, beat a bad West Virginia team, and so at that point they're 5-0 and haven't played anybody with a pulse at 5-0.
Yeah.
Then they go on the road and they beat Arizona, an okay Arizona team, a middle of the road Arizona team that should be bowl eligible eventually, but takes them 2 overtimes to do it. A game they did not look good in. A game where Bear Bachmeier threw 2 interceptions. He had his worst game of his career so far, and he pulled it out at the very end. This was a game they should have lost. Should have lost this game, but he pulls it out at the very end, right? LJ Martin goes crazy, but he's able to pull out at the very end. Then you got the Utah game at home, a game where a lot similar to this Tech game, in that a lot of people picked Utah to win.
Yeah,
a lot of people did. Right? It was a road game, but it isn't really a road game type of situation. A lot of people picked Utah to win. And what did Bear do? He just did the thing we talked about. Didn't make mistakes. 13 for 22, 166 yards, and a touchdown. No interceptions, no fumbles. Said, you know what? It ain't going to be me. I'm going to let my dogs do them. They end up running for he was actually pretty good on the ground, 64 yards on the ground. They ended up running for 202 yards total. All right, they win that game. Then, a couple weeks ago, remember in the preview pod, we did the Big 12 Roundup. You and Philip both were saying there's no way BYU wins this game. And y'all were right. There's no reason they should have won that game. Every metric said Iowa State was a better team, should beat them at home. And what happened? Bear Bachmeier had his best game of his career. 300 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, 49 yards rushing to add it to for a third touchdown. He was great. They win the game by multiple scores. And you know what happened last week, Jeremy? Nothing. They had a bye. Yep. They had a bye. So what? The best time for Coach Satake, for his young freshman quarterback to come off of the best game of his career, is to chill for another week. And in that bye, you get a guy named LJ Martin who hurt himself a couple weeks ago against Iowa State, who was taken out of the game. Time for him to rest up. Time for him to get healthy. He's the best player on offense for them, and he's back for this game. I'm telling you, man, people are not worried enough about BYU in this offense with Bear Bachmeier and LJ Martin.
I agree. And I think LJ Martin, you said it best. Like, not enough people are talking about this guy. Not only has he been a torrent on their run game, but he is actually, I think, one of the better pass rush defenders in the Big 12. Reminds me a lot of Taj Brooks, where it was like, if Taj is blocking back there for Bear and Morton, he's good. Like, he's going to square up with anybody and give Bear. I mean, is Martin going to stop, the likes of David Bailey and Romello Height? No, but he's going to block them long enough to give Bear another half second to get that ball out. And that makes all the difference. Like, his ability throughout the season to pick up blocks has been great and has helped Bear just sit back and have confidence to throw. Huge piece of the game. And again, on the running side of things, I mean, he's been their guy. Like, now, I have seen some conflated arguments that he's the best running back in the Big 12. And I think that comes behind the notion that they're 8-0 at the same, but if you're looking at stats, like, I mean, if you just go head to head, Cam Dickey and Martin, like, they have pretty much the same amount of carries. Yeah, Martin's got about 40 more yards on him, but 5 touchdowns to Cam Dickey's 10. It depends how you're looking at it. But he's proven to be a really effective player, skill position player in the backfield there for them. And so just those two guys have made the difference for this BYU team. And that's nothing to speak for their wide receivers. They also get back who do they just the name is blanking on me. JoJo Phillips. I think he's coming back. No. JoJo Phillips was coming in as their best wide receiver that they had left on the roster. High ceiling for this guy. Great athleticism, likes to go after the ball. Got hurt super early. I think the Stanford game he got hurt. He's been out since then. A lot of BYU fans really excited that JoJo Phillips is coming back. My curiosity with that, though, is you've been out so long.
Been a long time.
Been a long time, brother. How do you integrate back against a much better defense than Stanford?
You don't.
But it's just people to keep an eye on, right? But I think this offense, a really good way to phrase this offense that I saw was as LJ Martin goes, so does BYU. Like, Bear Bachmeier is great, but LJ Martin is a lot of the reason that he gets the gumption that he does. When he's got the run game behind Martin, the same way that Morton had the confidence of Taj Brooks, everything runs smoother if Martin's running well.
So I appreciate you being a homer. I do think LJ Martin's the best running back in the conference. I also think that he doesn't have a Jacoby Williams to also help us be that fire and ice. And so I think LJ Martin's the best running back in the conference.
So what's your metrics for that? So how are you looking at it differently?
So I'll say this with LJ Martin. So if we just take stats, right? You kind of mentioned stats. So LJ Martin leads the conference in rushing yards. He also leads the conference in yards per carry amongst qualifying people, right? His average is higher than almost any other starting running back in the conference. Not only that, just eye test, his shiftiness, his ability to work between the tackles, his ability to cut back, right, make people miss. A lot of broken tackles in the way that he operates. You mentioned him as like a Todd Brooks. Actually, I completely understand the comparison. That makes a lot of sense. He has all the tools there, right? Now, mind you, I do think Cam Dickey has had a better season than I could have possibly dreamed of. But there's nothing to say that when I look at LJ Martin, I'm like, man, that's the guy. That's the guy. Yeah. But I will say this about LJ Martin. That's great. That's fantastic that he's as good as he is if you're BYU. In a game that BYU probably feels that they need, it gotta really suck to play the best run defense in the country. When you rely on running so much. I've been doing the last couple of days. I've been doing a lot of looking into comparing teams' defenses across the country, not just in the Big 12, just across the country. I personally believe Ohio State's the best defense in the country. I think some people would argue that they haven't played anybody, and that's valid. But they do have 3 or 4 of like the top 15 defensive players in the country.
Yeah, that's the NFL roster right there.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like Caleb Downs is a future All-Pro in the NFL. Arvell Reese also is going to be a future Pro Bowler in the NFL. Like, they have so many guys, right? But as great as that defense is, as good as the Indiana defense is, as good as the Iowa defense is, as good as the Miami defense is on paper, none of them got the run defense like Texas Tech. Let me tell you something. If you know how to run, and that is the problem that Utah ran into, is that Utah's offense was so predicated on a good run game, and they were worn down so much by Tech's run defense, right? The recipe to beat Texas Tech and at least have a not terrible day against Texas Tech is to do what Arizona State was able to do. Right? And mind you, Arizona State still didn't have a great offensive day, but they did much more than anybody else ever has. And the way they were able to do it is because they said they didn't necessarily abandon the run game, but they really focused on quick passes, attacked our secondary, mitigated the D-line, mitigated the front seven, and not only attacked the secondary, but they went outs. So they didn't even go over the middle very much. They said, you know what, Ben Roberts, Jacob Rodriguez, y'all are pretty good. So we don't go away from you. We're going to go right at your secondary. We're going to go right at the guys. We're going to go right at Boyd, right at Brennan Jordan, right at Pollock, who Pollock can get an interception. You're going to get an interception, Pollock, that's fine. We still going to go at you, right? And guess what? That's not BYU's game. So as much as respect we give to LJ Martin, as much respect we give to Bear Bachmeier, as much respect we give to the O-line, all that stuff, their offensive game plan actually plays in Texas Tech defense's hands tremendously. I would even argue even more beautifully than Utah's did. And so I'm back on the Homer bandwagon when I talk about that, just because LJ Martin's great. This is a terrible team to play when you're coming off of injury.
I will say it is an unbelievable – I have been dumbfounded, and I have been deliberate about not talking about it. But it has been unbelievable to watch some of these kind of high-level matrix accounts showing like, hey, this last week of play, or hey, here's how the whole season by week 11, this is how teams are stacking up defensively, defensive whatever, blah, blah, blah. And the top right quadrant is like the best, right? And Ohio State's kind of like in the middle, upper part of that. And Texas Tech, maybe not as far to the right, but buddy, it is at the ceiling of that quadrant. And like there's nobody close to the run defense that Texas Tech is having. So when I see BYU fans, and let me say this respectfully, when I see BYU fans getting overly hype about LJ Martin, is like, man, you guys are, how many times have you heard this? You guys are going to learn who this is this week, right? I'm like, buddy, you are not paying attention to statistically what is unbelievably the best rush defense in the country by a country mile. Like running through the tackles is you basically running through a rock and an even bigger rock, a brick wall that is reinforced by a steel wall. This is wholly new for Texas Tech fans too. So like used to, it was like, can Texas Tech stop the run? No. Can they stop the pass? No, but a little bit better than they can stop the run. Their defense is ass and this team is ass. Now it's like,
oh, it's amazing.
I can't comprehend.
Best run defense in the country. And the funny thing about it is, and we're talking about the country, right? So we're saying like we're comparing us to Texas's vaulted defense, to Oklahoma's vaulted defense, Ohio State's, Iowa's, etc. If we put it just the Big 12, it is the best in the Big 12 by a freaking state.
Dude, we're in the moon. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's so much better than everybody else. Even if we take traditional metrics, and I'm looking it up right here, of just rush yards per game. We right now, Texas Tech defense holds the opposing defense 74.6 rush yards per game. Second place is TCU at 120.
That's insane.
45 yards more. 45 yards more. That's insane. That is insane. So there is, to compare it, just one more comparison, just so y'all know. There is just as big of a gap between first and second place, between Texas Tech and TCU in second place, as there is between TCU and Oklahoma State in 13th place.
Buddy.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. So hard to, here we are, week 11 or whatever. You just got to accept it. Texas Tech's a really good defense. And as LJ Martin goes, so does BYU. But you may have to scheme a little bit differently. And I know that Satake is definitely has that in mind, right? He's not going to be ignorant and saying, okay, well, we're just going to run it and see what happens. And he's going to scheme otherwise. BYU fans, you will have a little bit of humble pie come Saturday whenever, LJ Martin runs. Maybe he gets 80 yards on the day, right? That's a good day.
Well, I definitely expect a lot of read option. A lot of RPO work, a lot of things that look like a wildcat because he's wearing number 47, but you're like, no, technically he's a quarterback. So I definitely expect a lot of that. So there'll be a lot of guys having to be smart, stay at home a little bit. But again, what makes his run defense so tough is that how do you do an RPO when Lee Hunter's in your face?
Oh, God. They don't care who's running with the ball. They're just going to run through it.
That's what I'm saying.
Whoever's right behind them. There's no,
Oh, my God. It's so the way BYU plays definitely leads right into Texas Tech hands.
Well, and what did Coach McGuire say in that same interview? He was talking about, no. It was Jacob Rodriguez was talking about the defensive, their entire mantra is to earn the right to rush the passer. Their whole thing is we want to earn the right to rush the passer. What does that mean? We shut down the run. So then we make them pass. And that's and that plays right into what we were talking about with the Avery Johnson case of put them in a position where they're having to pass the ball and these guys go nuts. That's exactly what they want. They want to swim move and dive at your quarterback. This is what these guys live for. So you're playing, we're playing right into the playbook here.
So Jeremy, I got a question for you. What are the two games that BYU struggled the most, came the closest to losing?
Colorado and Utah.
That don't count.
That doesn't count. Why?
All right. Well, the two recent games. I wasn't counting Colorado. I didn't see Colorado there.
Okay, so Utah and Arizona.
Do you want to know the two best run defenses that they've played so far?
Is it Utah and Arizona?
It is Utah and Arizona.
Yeah.
Arizona being the best run defense that they've played so far.
Mm.
And they went to double overtime on the road and almost lost. Utah being the second best run defense they played so far this year, and only beat them by a little bit. Now, Colorado is a little interesting because they are the worst run defense in the conference, and BYU still almost lost to them as well. But still, I think that leads to the narrative of what we're talking about here is that whenever you can slow down the run a little bit, BYU isn't as vaulted as normal, So, flip side, let's talk about the other side of the ball, BYU's defense. Now, BYU's defense ain't nothing to snuff at, right? They got a good defense over there. This would be the second best defense that Texas Tech has played all year by most metrics, right? With the only other team with a better defense statistically being Utah. Right? Utah beats BYU in most defensive categories, and we talked about it leading up to the Utah game, but BYU second. I mean, in advanced metrics, traditional metrics, virtually across the board, right? They are second. And where they excel, I mean, and I would say where they excel at, but they're pretty even either way. It's funny enough, they're fourth in the conference in pass yards per game, fourth in the conference in rush yards per game, and third in the conference in points given up per game. So pretty stout defense. What are your thoughts on how this defense plays and some of the players to watch out for there?
So BYU is an interesting defense. I would say that their fans probably would agree that they give up more yards than they should. I mean, that is what it is. What they've done a really good job of is stifling opponents, first of all, in the red zone, which is really unfortunate to hear. But I think the past 2 seasons, so Jay Hill, their defensive coordinator, is a wizard in a lot of ways. He is no Shieldwood, but man, he can make adjustments, right? So I think the past 2 years of BYU has really been defined by opponents playing very inefficiently, potentially giving up a ton of yards over the course of the game, but it's not really translating to points at a high clip, right? They really thrive when quarterbacks are not mobile, and Baron Morton, not a mobile quarterback, and for good, thank God. But like BYU has done a really good job of just playing very consistent game, like a game plan, and then having it switched up at the half, and then playing a new style, and it not really tripping up. A lot of BYU's resurgence in the second half has been directly led by Coach Hill making some kind of adjustment to address what is really kind of beating us up right now. It's literally how they've gotten back into most of their games every game that they've been trailing. That's been the matrix, right? I think that you've got a really good defensive line for BYU. They do have pressures. They do get a lot of pressures. They are one of the higher pressuring teams in the nation. Well, I mean, obviously we're the top, but they're up there too. I think that they're much deeper. They're much better, I think, at maybe pass coverage generally. It's where a lot of the teams, and I think they really have to be in this league, in this conference, being the Big 12, much more so than they have been at run stopping. And that's inversely like for Texas Tech. But I think that, people like Tassili Akana but God forgive me for these BYU people, they go out to Greater Samoa and bring these players from. Tassili Akana and Nusi Tamopeo. Again, boy, I couldn't be more white. But, there's people down their roster. They've got a lot of depth. They got a lot of talent in depth. Now, they don't rotate those guys as similarly. They don't play them nearly as long as we're playing our guys. So the pedagogy there is a little different. But, I mean, they're players that are looking for NFL snaps. And they have a lot of metrics. Drink. And they've got a lot of metrics. I think Texas Tech's O-line is my biggest worry here, because I think that they've really got some complex pressures and blitz packages that Jay Hill has drawn up that have caused a lot of grief for teams this season. And the teams that have really gotten around it and had more like effective offensive days are teams that have more mobile quarterbacks. I hope I don't see Baron Morton trying to get out of the pocket and make plays happen. That's going to just line him up for a dangerous hit, which the last thing we need in this game is Baron Morton to go down with some dumb hit. So so this defense is complex. Like, they're not world beaters. Like, they're not world class. They've let crappy teams get up points on them pretty frequently, but they've locked down when they need to. They've had blitz pressure. Like they've had blitz packages get home when they need to. Jay Hill, it's really their defensive coordinator's just got a really good head on his shoulders.
Yeah, I think most BYU fans will tell you that they believe last year's defense was a little bit better. Yeah. Right. But similar to the team we played last week, Kansas State, these guys, they don't transfer out. They don't transfer in. They stay. They get developed. They are Cougars. I will say, to your point, this defense doesn't scare me. This defense isn't. I was a lot more worried coming in and playing Utah's defense.
Yeah, in Salt Lake City for sure.
In Salt Lake City, yeah, this defense is scary. However, 3 players do. First one up is you don't see, since Trey Polamalu, you'd see this more often, but you don't see Samoan safeties too often. But Satuala is killing. Usually we say that when a DB leads the team in tackles, it means it's not a good thing. He's an exception because he be hitting at the line. Both him and Tanner Wall, they be hitting at the line. They in there in the run game, right? And so Satuala is just all over the place. He has, like I said, leads the team in tackles, leads the team in interceptions, or second on the team in interceptions. It has a sack, has forced 2 fumbles. Satuala is he is their do everything man. Yeah. You're gonna see him pop on tape while you're watching this game all the time. Then you look at Jack Kelly. Jack Kelly got 5 sacks on the year.
Great value, Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob. He's good.
You're a Jacob. That's what that is. But he's a guy. He's a guy that he woke up in the morning, ate tree bark out in Utah, and that's just his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and he's ready to play football.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and then last but not least, right beside Jack Kelly is Glasker, Isaiah Glasker, and Glasker is a guy that if anybody on defense is gonna make it on Sunday, it's gonna be Glasker, right? He a mammoth of a player, big guy, hits hard, is tough to good at shedding blocks, tough to block in general, and he's going to make that short tackle. Doesn't let go of those things. So those 3 guys worry me. The rest of the defense, though, you can make some things shake.
Yeah, I will say this. So I think the exception for my common rule of like DBs leading the tackles, a crappy defense, is that Satuala and Wall both play into this Jay Hill blitzing package extravaganza. Anytime you get a safety who's getting sacks, safety blitz. Like he's coming off the edge. Like no doubt. Like he's getting around quicker. Lighter guy, quicker guy, gets to the backfield a lot faster. Same reason that Jack Kelly as a linebacker is getting as many sacks as he is, just blitzing. That is going to be, if we are unable to pick up blitzes or to close gaps, boy, it's going to be a tough day offensively. Like this can be a mediocre defense, but if they're still getting home to Morton, doesn't matter. Like that's all they want to do is to make sure that Morton is uncomfortable. And the fact that he doesn't have the ability to run around, it just puts him in a harder spot to be the dude, right? Because the thing that we need Morton to do is we need him to be settled, to make confident throws, and to play his game, which is generally mistake-free. But if he's getting rattled, if he's getting whacked left and right, like, man, that makes it really hard. And so, while it's not a scary defense and we are playing at home, like this, as Baron Morton goes, so does Texas Tech, because like if he goes down, Mitch Griffiths can be a great quarterback and all that, but I don't see Mitch Griffiths being talented enough against this style of defense like this, especially. It's almost like, so while we have the advantage defensively, funny thing about this game, offensively, I think is the weak point for both teams here. Because for us, or for BYU, their offense is predicated on the run, establishing the run. Defensively, we like to smash the run. Sorry, you're not going anywhere, right? So how do they deal with that? Inversely, we really like to set up. I mean, we run it. Hopefully we'll run it more. Come on, Mac. But we really like to put Baron Morton in positions where he can make confident throws midfield and every now and then long, downfield. We do not do well against teams that blitz a lot. Arizona State started getting really comfortable blitzing throughout that game, and they had every right to be. They were getting in the backfield, right? They were making it really hard. Teams that blitz and blitz well cause issues for us, and I think that's mostly to do with the offensive line quality. But if we allow BYU to get back there, man, this is going to be the defensive juggernaut game that neither of us want to be playing.
So with that being said, who on the Texas Tech offense is going to have to make sure that they ball out in order to keep this defense at bay?
Saw his name pop up on an award list for most versatile player, it's your boy, Jacoby Williams. Jacoby Williams is the X factor on this team. Cam Dickey, you know what you get, north-south, some shimmying. He can get past you, blow through you. That's fine. Jacoby Williams is like, hey, I'm going to go out and catch a pass. Dump it off to Jacoby Williams. You want to win? Put Jacoby in. Like, I think that we just need to respect having Jacoby's versatility in this kind, especially, buddy, if they're going to be, Mac, I swear to God, if we're like, you know what, they're blitzing, I'll just do a middle screen again. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to throw something at my TV because you've got guys like Jacoby Williams who can full out to the flat and be available in blitz packages. Any blitz package, there is going to be somebody who is undefended. That is the rule of blitzing. It is a risk. If it wasn't a risk, people would do it all the time. But it's a risk. So somebody's going to be open. My bet, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the halfback in the backfield. Throw it out to Jacoby Williams. Dump it off. There's at least 10 yards there every time. So I think Jacoby Williams, for me, establishing a level of the game that they can't compensate for against the blitz packaging is going to put BYU in a position where they maybe they resist blitzing. Maybe we need to stay more in man. We need to stay more in some kind of cloud formation over the top so that we're not getting beat on big chunk plays, which is exactly what Texas Tech would like. A lot of chunk plays.
So you mentioned a lot about the blitzing. And you mentioned a lot about the blitzing and what the blitzing is going to cause in this one. I'm going to say this. I'm going to pull a Jeremy and do a dual reward. Will Jaddo and Davian Carter. Give me the guards. Keep your boy upright. Because I do think with that blitzing, one thing that helps is, especially when you blitz inside. Blitzing inside, right at the middle, that's how guys get hurt.
That's right.
And that's how they like to do it as well, is blitz inside. If our guys stand upright and keep our QB upright, I think we're going to be good. Not only that, in the passing game, running game, you mentioned it. I am curious to see if we're going to have more of those 2 running back sets like we did against K-State, right? And so if that is the case, 2 running back sets, run behind the big hog mollies in the middle, then you're good to go. So give me the guards. I've been giving a lot of props to Davian Carter this year. Will Jaddo, you too. You've been playing well as well. And so let me see it there. Flip it over defensively. Who needs to ball out and make sure that the bear in the woods stays malnourished?
This is actually a really good question. John Curry. I think John Curry is our defensive X factor here because of the running ability of Bear Bachmeier. We need more cloud coverage. We need more spying ability. Avery Johnson mentioned in the last game, something that wore him down at the end of the game is that we were spying really well. He couldn't just get out and run it. And when he recognized that, it was too late because on his ass was either Romello Hyde or David Bailey. And now he's running for his life. So I think spying in this game is going to be huge defensively. And got to believe that Shield Woods already kind of pressed on that. But John Curry was the guy last game that made the difference. I'm not going to show up on the stat sheet, but it's going to make the difference in the way that this game plays out. I'm rolling with John Curry again because if there's one thing this team, if they want to run it and they're trying to, maybe they're not going to design it, but like, hey, if the pass is in there, just go for it, Bear. Hate that rhymed. I think that why is this a prime Jeremy moment? What the hell did I say?
Pick the same guy over and over again, huh? You're going to go John Curry. You're the guy every week.
Did I pick him last week? No, I didn't pick him last week.
I picked him last week. Still.
That's funny. It's John Curry, man. For me, it's John Curry. I don't want to pick a defensive back because it's going to make me really nervous. And there's no reason that it should fall on them.
So I already mentioned his name before. I'm not going to pick a DB because I don't expect I don't think we're going to have another 300-yard passing game from Bear Bachmeier. And though I think that is the best way to beat this Texas Tech team, though I think it's the best way to beat this Texas Tech team, BYU got to find another way because that ain't going to be it. Mm. I do think it's going to be trying to be the first team ever to make the Tech rush defense struggle. Mm. best way to make sure that doesn't happen? Lee Hunter. I'm going to say consistent. Keep it right in the middle in the trenches. Lee Hunter. I think Lee Hunter and A.J. Holmes, both of them just plugging up that middle, making sure nothing happens, and making sure that L.J. Martin and Barrett Bachmeier hit that brick wall, those double rocks. And I think that'll be really big for the defense there. And then everybody else, the mustachioed bros behind them, the NFL edges, everybody can just tee off because Holmes and Hunter got it made in the shade in the middle there. So that's kind of where I'm going overall.
Whew. Feels good. Feels right.
Feels good. All right. So, Jeremy.
Oof. Don't make me do it.
We got some other Big 12 games. They ain't just Texas.
Thank God.
I know that honestly, this week's not a great week for college football. Outside of our game, A&M plays at Missouri. That's a potential upset alert.
Yeah.
Oregon plays at Iowa. I actually do think Iowa's going to win that game.
Wow.
Yeah, Oregon. We're going to see if they're frauds or not.
That's right.
I don't know, but I got Iowa winning that game. But not a lot of games in the Big 12 in general. Those are only 3 ranked games, period, this week. So, but in the Big 12, which is the fun conference everybody really cares about, let's talk about them. So, the TNT game of the week, Colorado at West Virginia. I am sorry, TNT. You keep getting these games. We got to get you better games. Who you got in this one? West Virginia is a 6.5-point favorite after their upset win against the Cougs.
That's right. And they are going to keep rolling with their quarterback. So I think that, give me West Virginia to keep this momentum going. It's in Morgantown. Colorado doesn't have any identity whatsoever. No reason Colorado should win this game. Give the Mountaineers.
There is one reason. I'll give you one reason why Colorado can win this game, and that's Julian Lewis is getting his first start of his career. Wow. We are going to see if Julian Lewis is the same kid who was on Slam Magazine 3 years ago. Was it 3 years ago? However long ago.
Oh, my God.
We're going to see.
That's funny.
So, that's the only reason why I could see Colorado winning this game is if Julian Lewis just has the game of his life. He resurrects Coach Prime and everything they have going over there, and they win this game against the West Virginia team that's still not any good, right? But I don't think that's going to happen. I saw Julian Lewis play in the last game. He looked just as bad as everybody else did. He actually even looked worse than K-Salt. So I think the Mountaineers are going to win this one as well. And they may even cover. Next up, Kansas at Arizona. One of these teams will be bowl eligible after this game. Vegas has Arizona with a 5.5 points as 5.5 point favorites. Who do you have in this one?
I like the Wildcats, and I like them to cover. I think Arizona wins by a touchdown. Finally finding some groove, got to win at home. Bowl eligibility does a lot for a team. So they're right there. Go and get it.
It does. Arizona has consistently been the best team in the conference that has no shot at winning, making it to Arlington.
Yeah.
We haven't even thought of them as a real contender.
Right.
And so
Wildcats.
Yeah, but they've been the best. But this is kind of the battle of that tier, right?
Yeah.
Between Kansas and Arizona. The battle of the tier of we don't really care about you, but you're winning games. Good for you. So I do think the Wildcats are going to win this one as well. At home, they get bowl eligibility. And after this, I mean, if you're Arizona, right, you win this game. You got 3 games left: Cincinnati, Baylor, Arizona State. 3 tough games. So you kind of got to win this one because it's going to be tough. Every game after this is going to be even tougher. So make sure you win this one, Wildcats. Houston, night game. FS1 at UCF. Can Houston bounce back? Can you do something, Cougs? I mean, that game against West Virginia was atrocious. Houston is 1.5 point favorites. So small line, but they are still road favorites going all the way to Florida. Who you got?
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. It's embarrassing. 1.5 road favorites at UCF. I think that Houston bounces back against the UCF, the Knights. I think UCF has lost a lot of momentum this season, not just as a football team, but as a program. Like fans just really not buying into it anymore. And I think, if you're on the road at night If it was a bigger team than Houston, maybe they'll show up, but I don't think it's going to be as packed as they want it to be. So I think Houston's going to feel a little bit of that stress of can't believe we lost to West Virginia. We lost our Big 12 champ. Our Big 12, we were going to be in Arlington, damn it. Now we're not. Now I'm mad. So, yeah, give me Houston.
I don't think there's a single soul that thought Houston was going to go to Arlington, even Houston.
Are you sure? The only Houston fans on Twitter seem to think so.
No, they knew better. They were just trolling. They knew better. Here's the thing, Jeremy. Everything you said is correct. But you forgot one thing. It's space. It's space weekend.
That's right.
It's Space Saturday.
Let's go.
It's Space Week. UCF don't lose them games. All right. UCF does not lose a game like this. It is Space Week. Unfortunately for them, Houston's not ranked because I'm sure they would have loved to storm the field. With it being Space Week, that means the stadium will be full to see them beat a 7-2 team. And it's really their only opportunity to get bowl eligible. If they don't win this against Houston, bowl eligibility is a pipe dream. They win this against Houston, and they will have a chance to get bowl eligible really against Oklahoma State. I mean, it's Houston, Tech, Oklahoma State, BYU. So if they have any shot at bowl eligibility, they got to win this game. I think they do. I think they win this game. And here's the thing. I think Houston will only win one more game this season. And they'll finish the season overall 8-4, which still a pretty good season for Houston. Just losing 3 out of your last 4 is going to feel bad. And I don't think the one last win is just going to be this weekend. I think they probably upset either TCU or Baylor, but that'll be about it. I think they win. I think they lose this game at UCF, and they go a little bit further down in the doldrums, the Cougs. All right. Probably the second biggest game this weekend, though obviously not ranked opponents, but Iowa State at TCU. Iowa State's been taking some L's lately, man. Can they get back on the road? 4 straight losses for Iowa State. Can they finally get a win and knock TCU off the list of contenders for the Big 12?
I don't think so. I really don't think so. I've lost faith. You embarrassed me. Cyclones last week, you embarrassed me, and I will not be embarrassed again. TCU's just having a little bit more of a positive swing than Iowa State is. It's in Fort Worth, if that means anything. But yeah, TCU for me.
So I will say a potential trap game because you got BYU next week for TCU. And in that game, right, for TCU, you got a undefeated BYU. After this game, you have an undefeated BYU. You have a 7-2 Houston, and you have an 8-1 Cincinnati. All right. So it's very easy for you to look ahead and be like, man, if we can just, once we get past this one, we got a real gauntlet coming up. Yeah. But I don't think Iowa State's in a free fall right now. They're in a free fall. I don't know if it's because Matt Campbell's distracted. I don't know what it is, but they're in a free fall right now. They need a win in the worst way. Luckily for them, the last 2 games of the season might be the 2 of the easier games for them to get at least one more win for bowl eligibility. Imagine at one point they were 5-0. Bowl eligibility was all but a guarantee, and now they're 5-4.
Yeah,
and I think they're
Texas Tech season 20.
Yeah, and I think they're going to 5-5. Yeah, TCU 6.5 point favorites. I do think it'll be close, but TCU wins it. All right, Jeremy, you ready?
No,
we're past the hour. I know we're past the hour, but 7th ranked BYU, 8th ranked Texas Tech. Let's give you some stats here. Like we mentioned, Texas Tech 10-point favorites overall. BYU has won over 10 straight, right? Undefeated on the year. They're actually also 7-2-1 against the spread this year. So pretty good picks against the spread. Texas Tech 7-3 against the spread this year. Texas Tech 10.5 point favorites. That's the line that we have overall. As far as injury reports, like we mentioned before, they're getting LJ Martin back. Still some injuries for the BYU Cougars, but not a lot. Not a lot. Most of their team is pretty healthy. I mean, McKenzie's still going to be out. He's been out for a while already. Purcell, D-line's going to be out. as well, which actually is a pretty big blow. Purcell's supposed to be a pretty good D lineman this year, and he's been out for a little bit. But Tech has the one with the much more extensive injury list. But good news for Texas Tech is that all the guys that are out for this game, we already knew about. We already knew about Will Hammond, Skylar Howard, and Quentin Joyner, and Mikael Dingle. Other guys like Amir Boyd and Will Jaddo and Baron Moore and Reggie Virgil, all probable, all will likely play. Not too worried about them. So yeah. So Jeremy, once again, metrics favors Texas Tech. Texas Tech defense against the BYU offense, we win in almost every statistical category. Texas Tech offense versus BYU defense, we win in almost every statistical category.
That's right.
It's starting to, it's happening again, right? Right now, This is only the third meeting we've ever had, Jeremy. Both teams with one win. BYU did beat us 2 years ago in 2023. Back in 1940, we got the W.
Buddy, and what we had Jake Strong trotting out against BYU in Provo.
Oh, in 1940, yeah.
No, bro. Oh, man. Jeez.
That's also the only other time BYU's come to Lubbock. It was October 18th, 1940.
Damn, we were in the middle of a world war. How crazy is that? All right, Texas Tech. I mean, this is a massive test. This is a massive test for both teams. Obviously, Texas Tech's ranking top 10 nationally in defense. We're only giving up 280-something yards per game. Only what you said, Albert, the 77 rushing yards. This is best in the nation, no doubt. I'm really confident about, yes, BYU's getting Martin back, but if they can't get him going early, we'll likely get ahead. They're going to be forced to throw into a pass rush that's dangerous. David Bailey, 11.5 sacks in the season. Jacob Rodriguez, those 7 forced fumbles, and he's a god among men. Bryce Pollock, 4 interceptions. There's a a complementary football element to this thing defensively, right? I think there's a lot to admire about BYU's toughness. I get why they're fans. I am not arguing a moment with why their fans are so generally confident about BYU's ability. I mean, they're 8-0. They're undefeated. There's no reason I think they'll lose because they haven't lost. They've been in positions where they would lose. They played a lot more close games than Texas Tech has. That will be an argument for BYU fans. My argument against that is that you've been close games against poo-poo teams for the most part. Yeah, you should have beat Colorado. Good job. Yeah, you really should have beat Arizona. Good job. Yeah, you should have beat Utah. I think that being at home, you had the advantage there. Good job. Does that really do anything for me? No. I think that Texas Tech covering their wins by double, 23 points when they're winning big. If they're losing, it's been close. You enter as an underdog, 10.5 underdog on the road, a road dog, in Lubbock. Prime time, everything's going on. Let me tell you, I believe more so in Coach McGuire and this team's ability to lock in when they need to lock in. He's made that very plain in pressers. He's made that very plain from the beginning of the season that the goal was always Arlington. This is nothing new. This is all expected, right? Everybody's saying it. The whole staff, the whole team, we expected this. We expected to be here. We expected the lights. I'm hoping they're telling the truth. But my final prediction would be, I think Texas Tech wins. I think BYU covers, obviously. Part of me wants to say this is an overtime game waiting to happen with Bear Bachmeier coming back to push it over the line. But either way you slice it up, I think this comes down to a 30-27 victory for Texas Tech, just edging it out and just being really happy with that. Both teams, I love a close game here. I think there's no doubt in my mind it could be a close game. And that's good for Big 12 football, baby. But I think Texas Tech gets the edge here.
Do you remember again, actually, I think I mentioned in this episode where Iowa State had all the metrics. Everything said Iowa State should beat BYU, and BYU still won.
That's right. They've been doing it all season, man.
They've been doing it all season.
Everyone hates BYU. They're disrespecting the Cougs.
I
would not stand for it.
Well, I mentioned how BYU reminds me a lot of, 2022 TCU?
Oh, don't say it. Team of Destiny.
The Team of Destiny. They remind me of it. Here's the thing. TCU, when every team they played, they were a little bit worse than them, and they still pulled it out. Good news for Red Raider fans is that BYU is more than a little bit worse than us. I think Texas Tech not only wins, I think they win by multiple scores.
Spicy. Really?
Yeah. I got it. Texas Tech 34-20.
Oh, nice. That would be a nice. Where does that launch Texas Tech in the college football playoff discussion?
It's a good question. Good question. A nice, sexy win like that. And mind you, it really wouldn't be sexy by our standards. I mean, we've beaten everybody else by 23 plus.
That's right. It'd be a disappointment.
Yeah, it really wouldn't be that sexy by our standards. But so before I kind of talk about the rankings there, yes, BYU's been able to do this, but their game, their style of play, even the blitzing, that does not bode well for how this team offense likes to play. Because what happens is that the blitzing will work for a quarter, maybe work for a half. It's not going to work in the second half. You're going to get Jacoby Williams to break off a 60-yard run if you keep blitzing like that. You're going to get these wide out screens because you've been blitzing in. So we now know that the wide outs can just keep going off of a screen. You're going to get a tight end screen. You're going to get a quick action to Terrence Carter. It's just this is a really, really bad matchup for BYU. Not only that, but one thing we did not talk about all episode. We're at home.
True.
We're at home.
11 a.m. So for
11
BYU,
a.m.
for Cougs, that's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Coming out that Pacific.
That's a good point. So 9 a.m. They're probably flying on a Friday, right? They probably should be flying on Thursday, actually. But they're going to be here. It's going to be 9 a.m. They're going to have to get used to that and ready for that. For Texas Tech, it's a home game. And as much as we've talked about how Joey has struggled on the road, and not necessarily this year, but in past years,
he
ain't never struggled at home. Home is where we beat Oklahoma his first year, and we beat Texas his first year. Home is where we've been able to whoop Houston every time they come to Lubbock. Home is where the heart has been, right? Even this season, home is where we had the shutout against Oklahoma State. Home is where we were able to whoop up on Kansas pretty easily. Home is where we were able to whoop up on Oregon State. Home, with the most points we've given up this year, like if you take away the second quarter against Kansas, these starters have not given up a single point at home.
Damn, I did not consider that.
So we are at home. I just cannot, even with all the distractions, even with everything, I just think we're better in most facets, and we're at home. If this was in Provo, I think I would have a different opinion. But we are at home. I don't see us losing that game. 34-20, and it won't surprise me if it's more. Now to your other question as far as ranking. So obviously we passed the BYU. I think a win here, the question ends up being, in my opinion, so this is tough, right? Because do we think the college football playoff will actually have us leapfrog an SEC team?
Well, that's a good question.
So, let's look at Ole Miss, right? They're the 6th-ranked team right now. Ole Miss's best win comes at Oklahoma. That's a pretty good win. And they beat an LSU team that's kind of reeling right now. So that was their second-best win, and that win doesn't look as great. All right? They would have played the Citadel. Do you take – I would say I would have Texas Tech ahead of Ole Miss, considering that Texas Tech would now have a win against BYU and against Utah. So against two teams would be ranked in the top 13. Top 15 versus Ole Miss's one win against a team ranked in the top 15. So I think Texas Tech should leapfrog Ole Miss. But, SEC bias going SEC bias. All right. And then if we look at the 5th-ranked team, that is Georgia. All right. Georgia, their best win is against Ole Miss. Ole Miss's loss was to Georgia. Yeah. That'd be their best win. But outside of Ole Miss, they also beat Tennessee, who's right now ranked 25th in the CFP, I believe. Yeah. Those are their only 2 ranked wins. Their loss coming to Alabama. Speaking of Alabama, they are ranked 4th, right? And so Alabama's best win, again, is against that same 5th-ranked Georgia team, as well as Alabama got some nice wins here. They got beat ranked Georgia, beat ranked Missouri, beat ranked Tennessee, but have the worst loss of all of us. Right?
Yeah, correct.
If you ask me, if Tech was to win, and Tech was to win, like I just mentioned, 34-20 against BYU, I would put Tech up to 5th ahead of both Georgia and Ole Miss. Because I think our resume is better than both Georgia and Ole Miss. However, Tech also has a worse loss than both Georgia and Ole Miss, and we don't play in the SEC. So if you want my honest opinion, I think we only go up to 7th. Maybe 6th. Maybe we leapfrog Ole Miss. I don't see us leapfrogging Georgia.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I agree. I will say, to some credence, somebody on the CFP selection committee was joking, directing it obviously towards ESPN, towards the SEC machine.
Oh, yeah, so.
You saw it saying like, "Hey, we just want to make sure that Texas Tech and BYU were top 10 for good ratings," you know. And some people took that as like a jab against the Big 12, but it is 100% a jab against the SEC that constantly gets ranked in the top 25, so that they can have ranked wins.
Yeah, honestly, I think it was a little bit of like a tongue-in-cheek comment, but like also like you got to know that's going to be twisted in all 30 different types of ways.
100%.
You know, so Texas Tech has this is. I also will say this, Jeremy, the winner of this game has stamped their ticket to Arlington and stamped their ticket, I would say, to the CFP. I think the winner of this game, Tech wins this game. Y'all can start booking if you haven't already. Start booking those tickets to Arlington.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, so like huge implications. Now the loser is not out of it, so that's the beauty of it. The loser's not out of it, especially if BYU is the loser. They're definitely not out of it. I think their percentage chance goes from like 70% to 50%.
Yeah.
Right. So they're still very much in.
Only one loss. Yeah.
Right. Tech's definitely goes down a bit, but still, I think an opportunity to be in. A win, however. I mean, we ain't losing to UCF. We ain't losing to West Virginia. So a win, we're going to Arlington, and we're going to the CFP. Then it becomes a question of, can we get that first round bye? That's when it gets, you went out, first round bye is now in play.
Yeah.
So anything else you want to say to the people?
Boy, Saturday is going to be something. Soak it up, everyone. Soak it up. If you're not here, turn on Game Day, drink your coffee. Enjoy it. If you are here, come out. I'll be there. I'll be there early as I can be. And they're going to move over the stadium about 10 anyways. So it gives me time to get back home, turn the game on. So, boy, this is something. I'm so excited. I have a friend who's leaving. Either they live in Dallas. Either he's going to leave Friday night, mega late after an event, or get up at like 4 and drive all the way to Lubbock to make it to game day. It's insane. He said because he originally lived in Lubbock. He missed the 2008 game day. He said, "I'm not doing it again. I'm not missing it again."
Fair.
I get it. I'm like, hey, let's do it then. Fair. Come on.
Yep. Soak it up, like BYU does most of the time. I couldn't let that pass. I mean, that was too easy. For the people champ that is Jeremy Gillen, this is your boy, I'll be sure. Make sure to have fun this weekend. Everybody is in town. It is Texas Tech Day until it's not. So turn up. And if Tech does win, that's it. They're going to burn to the crowd.
Hide your kids. Hide your wives.
Good news is it is an 11 a.m. game, so maybe it can be a little bit more sensible. Maybe.
That's right.
Who knows? Well, we'll see. So for all of us here at Tortillas and Takes, this is the Tortillas and Takes podcast. As always, part of the 10-12 network. As always, stay wrecked, people.